Goober gang, welcome. If you've been watching our show lately, you've probably noticed that we've got a brand new kayak with us. Today we're going to take a walk through this thing from bow to stern and show you all the features we packed into this kayak. Now, faithful followers of our channel will know that I love my Hobie PA14, but I had a vision and I thought I could craft the perfect kayak fishing machine, and I had to bring it to life. So I put the Hobie to the side and I picked up the Nucanoe Unlimited. Starting up front, we've got the Motor Guide XI3 36-inch shaft trolling motor. This has spot lock, it has directional heading. It's even got a little tiny remote where we can control everything right from the seat. It's 2022 and it's not a badass fishing machine if it doesn't have one of these up front. We did use a quick release system on this, so all we do is pull the pin and we can lift the motor right off the kayak. Taking care of mounting duties, I've got the one objective mount, and if you're interested in how we mounted this or pretty much anything else on the entire build, we've got more videos in the series that we filmed as we rigged this thing up, so just let us know in the comments that you want to see them. We'll edit them up and get them out here. The reason I went with one objectives here is because they've got the carrying handle up front, so when I'm not using the motor, I've still got the handle and I can carry this kayak in and out of the boat ramps. As you can see, we've taken advantage of this mounting plate up front to wire in our trolling motor. We're using the Marinco 70 amp trolling motor plug system, and we've got that routed all the way to the back of the kayak, and you'll see where we store our kayak battery when we get back there. This other mount you see up here is a Yak Attack through hole, and we're using that to run our transducer wire, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. This thing definitely has its own video, and I wish I could take credit for all the coolness of it, like the mounted navigation lights and totally internal battery wiring. But I've got to give a shout to my buddy Clint over at Circle Hook Productions. We kind of brainstormed this whole thing together, and a lot of this was his idea. So the power pod's really cool. It just has two little knobs that they mount into the track there. You can pop it in and out really quick. And the thing I really appreciate about it is it's got a little bit of recess underneath, so you can route some wires without actually drilling holes in your kayak. We've taken advantage of that spacing to run some 550 Paracord, and when we pull on that, it depresses the trolling motor foot pedal up front, and we can launch our trolling motor from the seat. You can also see the transducer cable coming up and going right into the back of our Garmin. We rely on the Garmin 93 SV for all of our mapping and fish finding duties on this boat, and right next to that we've got a Yak Attack camera mount pole with a quick release system, and that helps us take care of all of our filming duties. If we're doing a live stream, we've got this really nice phone holder, and that is from Tackform. They make some really quality gear, and if we're not using that to hold a phone, sometimes we use it to hold a battery pack to help power our camera, like a GoPro or a DJI Osmo that we keep up front. One thing I really appreciate about this mount is that it does swivel, so we can pan our camera, and it has a pretty smooth pan on the fly. Right next to that camera mount, you can see we've got a gland right here. It houses our power cord for our graph, so our battery is actually internal, and if I don't want to run a graph, or if I want to lighten the load up or do a trip where I have to carry my kayak, I can pop this whole gear pod out and just wind up the transducer cable and leave that up front. The one thing I absolutely love about this kayak is there's gear track everywhere, so mounting things is really completely up to you. As creative as you can get, you can mount things on this kayak. I have a ton of vertical rod storage. It could also be used to mount umbrellas or even camera poles if I need to. It's just really versatile. It's not really in the way up here, just made out of some PVC. I've got a quick little build video on that as well. More exciting is when we get back to the Smackdown rod holders. We went with the Smackdown rod holders that have the tube up front. As you can see, we've got our Uncle Lou bumping rod in this one right here. Holds it up vertical, keeps it out of the way, and if we're not going to snag anything if we're pulling up to the boat dock or anything like that. We mounted this to the Smackdown rod holder base, the kayak base, but I didn't trust it in the track. A lot of times I'm targeting really big catfish, so I decided to use a Boondocks landing gear plate, and you'll see that used the right way in the back of the kayak, but this is where I mount my rod holders, and there is no way those rod holders are coming off. They've got 4 attachment points, everything's metal, housed into 2 separate gear tracks, so the whole load of those fish when they load up that rod is distributed really nicely throughout that whole plate, and I have absolutely no concerns about that coming off. This kayak has room for a 3600 size Plano box, so I've got one of the waterproof ones right here with Goober time, and if you want to see what we keep in that tackle box, we've got a video on that on our channel as well. Same thing on the other side. I do keep my bait knife tucked into the side of this one, and you might have noticed that I've got some landing gloves right here. I don't carry a net in my kayak, so if I get a big fish up close and personal, I grab them by the jaw, and I like to keep those gloves at my disposal just in case I have to do that. This is one of the coolest parts of the entire kayak. It's got a retractable transducer mount system, so it's on a spring. It will push up into the bottom of the boat, or if I'm gonna lock it out like that, I could install a little cleat so I can keep that pulled up. It's really nice, really easy to install, I've got the cable routing up into this side mounting plate and up towards the front like you saw earlier. So pretty clean install. We've got a whole video on that install. Underneath the seat, I've got my anchor. Of course, I'm relying on a never lost kayak anchor here. These things hold me in some fast current, even on the muddy bottom of the James River. Just keep some other odds and ends inside that crate as well, like sunscreen and of course some Santee Drifter drifting weights for when I drag baits for catfish. That slides really nicely under the seat, and the seat was the reason I decided to go with this boat and ditch the Hobie. This is a 360 seat. It can spin completely around, and right behind that you can see I've got a full-on rod rack back there. This rod rack is mounted again on the Boondocks mounting system with an actual set of Boondocks landing gear that runs across. I usually don't use the wheels, but in cases when I need to, I've got them, and they've got sand wheels on them, so I could do saltwater fishing, I could do freshwater fishing, just really versatile. The really nice thing about the Boondocks landing gear is it's got a gear track all the way across, and then I just mount some rod holder bases here, screw in my smackdown rod holders, and of course I've got vertical rod storage right across the back. You might have noticed that this seat is on the rail system, so right now I don't have a lot of leg room up here because I was just fishing, suspending and drifting, so I wanted all my leg room up front, but all it takes is the twist and turn of 4 little knobs, and once I unscrew those bolts I can slide the seat all the way towards the bow of the kayak, and I've got all my leg room back here. I can kick the feet up on the cooler or my gill net back there and I'm good to go. Right behind that I've got these cup holders, which I usually don't hold for drinks because I do have built-in cup holders right here. I actually use those to store a lot of my lead, so my 8 ounce, 10 ounces, 6 ounces, stuff like that. And then towards the back of the kayak we've got the bait cooler. Of course we've got our catfish cutting board. It's designed for a 5-gallon bucket, but I find it just perfect for the kayak. I cut bait on the back so I don't mess up that pretty front, and it just slides right in the side there. Of course we got the backup paddle. Got a 50-foot gill net. We're allowed to use those on the James River, and if you're interested in how we catch bait using a 50-foot gill net, it's kind of like a volleyball net. We've got a video on our channel about that as well. When you saw our trolling motor up front, you probably wondered where our battery was, and we put this all the way back in the stern of the kayak. Main reason is we want to offset some weight. That's about a 30-pound trolling motor up front, and this is about a 20-pound battery. Inside this box I've got a 60 amp hour lithium battery from Amped Outdoors. It's treated me extremely well over the years. I plugged that in with an Anderson plug, which runs internal to the kayak and comes out right on the side right there with another Yak Attack through hole, and I took that opportunity to have my fuse right there. All I have to do is press the button and power is cut to the entire system, and I'm ready to launch. I close it up and it sends power up to the trolling motor. Once again, this boat has some more gear track right at the tail end of the kayak, so I decided to strap down my battery using that gear track. And then we've got the star of the show, the Honda 2.3 outboard motor. Take a look at that thing. We've got a tiller handle so we can steer that up towards the seat. All we gotta do is pull the seat back towards the rear of the kayak and we can steer that thing right from our seat. This thing gets a lot of questions, and if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. I've just got it mounted to the Nucanoe transom plate mount that's built for this boat. It's rock solid. We do have some built-in rod holders towards the back of the kayak on either side, but there's a ton of videos on YouTube about this boat. I'm sure you've seen the layout of it. It's a pretty cool layout. Last but not least, we've installed an anchor trolley along the side. For days when I'm anchoring, I like to be able to pick the front or the back of the kayak to anchor up off of. Seeing that this is more of a square back, I usually anchor up off the bow of the boat. The thing I really like about this boat is that it's very modular. I can take the outboard off if I need to really quickly. I can take the bow mount off if I need to. I can take them both off and paddle this thing like no problem if I'm gonna get into some skinny water. It's got tons of options. There's even a pedal drive option that I could put in there, but I've got a different kayak that I use for those situations. So it is an option, and that was one of the main reasons I was able to give up the Hobie. It's because I don't really use the pedal drive more than anything but a backup. And now that I've got an outboard on the back, XI3 on the front, and it handles that weight just fine, much better than the Hobie did, I'm not worried that both of these motors are gonna go down. And if they do, I can always paddle that boat back. It won't be fun, but I'll get there. Well, we appreciate if you're still hanging with us towards the end of this video. And if you're wondering what's going on with that awesome kayak trailer build in the background, we do have a video on that you're gonna wanna go check out right here.